today. Probably on for like an hour. Decide what's up. I There's a lot of stuff going on, so just a lot of stuff to go on. We gonna see what we're working with. Trying to figure this thing out. What's up? Hope everybody's doing good. Where's Monday? Could be the Monday afternoon. Could be Monday day. I don't know what's going on with this thing. I don't understand why they are messing with me. So we are live, and it's trying to get stuff straight. What is going on with this whole thing? Trying to get to the studio, trying to get this stuff live. Just think go through all this hangups just to get stuff on live. But anyway, we are live now. This is gonna be a basketball related one. So if you want to know, have you lost respect for Tracy McGrady? He been on the latest about how if LeBron, I mean if Kobe Bryant won the Lakers, he would have been. And I'm like, when you start talking about someone who ain't here to defend themselves, that looks really like a tacky turkey move. And second of all, you never got out the first round. And third of all, I did do some research. He was in the top five voting for a few years in the OOs, but he never gave the impression of a team player. He never gave the impression that he was doing better. He had the capabilities. I don't know where his agenda is, so I'm kind of dumbfounded and kind of stumped and complex. Maybe someone can help me out with it. I don't know. But I do know that he sounds kind of like he's deluded. Nobody was really looking at. He was a great player for his time, but he was battling the Iversons, the Vince Carters that were a tier below what Kobe was doing, and for a while a tier below Shaq and Tim Duncan. So you are a bit more extreme what you doing. But anyway, question is, have you lost any respect for him? Because I think he's kind of like, and I'm just saying, if anybody done lost a little respect from him, let me know. The Turkeys talk too much yang, and they didn't act like they kind of cray. So and I'm like, I liked your career, but I'm kind of losing some respect for you here, partner. You didn't talk too much yang yang. You sound kind of insane yang. So I just hope that you was play yang. But anyway, Tracy McGrady and kind of be tripping. Just kind of like sometimes these cats be saying stuff and they just be all over the place. They hope that you can't read. I just hit the rewind button, so don't be afraid. This was like trying to hit something. I may have, we'll see. Keep doing it till we get it. Hope everybody's having a good day today. Color, loud and color. This starting, so anyway. So did you have you lost any respect for Tracy McGrady? That's the big question mark. I am live in color. Um, all this talk about Kobe Bryant and what you would do, and the only time you got past the first round, you riding San Antonio Spurs gear on the bench, and that was the finals where Ray Allen hit the game, tying shot, arguably one of the greatest shots ever in finals history. Save LeBron James' legacy because if they don't win that series, I don't think he gets the four rings. So, and that was a huge statement, and it makes the Miami trip less than memorable because then they may not have won another one. And we don't know if Tim Duncan retires undefeated in the finals if that carries any weight, but just saying. So, but anyway, we're live here today. We're gonna wait and see what people come in, thoughts and takes. So we're gonna just kind of, yeah. What's happening? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Thank you for coming through. Tell me where you're coming from. Glad to have you today. Thank you for coming through today. Well, before you ask where you from, because before I say anything, I want to know where people are coming from. I lived in all four corners of the United States, so but what's your story? You don't realize how big some place is until you done gone to different places. Indonesia? Wow. What's your story? Tell me about you. I've heard quite a bit about the country, but feel free to enlighten me. I'm listening. What's up? How you doing? Thanks for coming through. How you doing? I had to send out some information. That's why it took a little while, but I'm on here now. I'll definitely be on for an hour. I should be on for an hour. What's going on? How was the weekend? How's everything going? How's everybody feeling? Yeah, well, because if things kind of don't be progressive, I don't want to, you know, if you with me, you got to keep hitting those questions, and we got to keep going because if people delay and stuff, then I just kind of think it's not much going on, and I don't like a lot of delay. It's out of respect to everybody. So if you got questions, feel free to hit me up, and I will answer as best as I can. But if it's kind of delayed and it just kind of stalls, I don't want to stall. All due respect. That's a great question. You know what? I'm going to use that for a future episode. Wow. I've never been asked that one before. Oh, boy. And I like them in two different ways, too. This last I was towards my childhood in the sense that I like the way that her tone was. She had a nice vibe. However, if you ever watch Drink Champs, and Drink Champs always frustrates me because they always want to drink up and they don't, and they always want to say both. I can't say both. Um, if you ask me who was stronger of the two, I gotta say that, in all honesty, as much as I dig them both, and Lasso was my crush, and I definitely liked her vibe. I gotta say Deborah Laws, because Deborah Laws had this soul grit thing that sounded like, I mean, it was just really a rawness to it. And if you listen to Very Special, there's a part in the song where love is living very. She hit this one cadence in there, which was like almost to me a precursor to Whitney Houston. Stacey Lattisaw, to me, has the balance of tone. She worked with Narada Michael Walton. She got the balance of tone that Mariah Carey never got. Now, ironically, play the game. Mariah sampled that too. So, but I can always take the between the two. I think Lattisaw had the bigger career, but I think Deborah Laws, excuse me, kind of hit me a little bit. She kind of hit me a little bit more. So, what's up? How you doing? Thank you for stopping by. Feel free to take the poll question. If you got time, feel free to ask questions. I'll be on for like an hour. As long as I know people are. Oh, I like his game. I don't like this tactic he's doing. It's not about me. I got a problem with him trying to say that if it wasn't for Kobe, what he would do. I don't like that. I think that's kind of a tacky turkey move. That's all. That's all. You know, you sit there and say that this or that, but to say that I got kind of a problem with that. I kind of got a problem with it. I think it's kind of lowbrow. So I do think I've lost some respect for him. Yeah, because I could have said, I probably, but he himself said he didn't put the mindset to put the work in. So I'm not gonna sit here and say no mess now. I think we're gonna get a 50% on this one. I really do. Why not? They've only had two finals appearances in the last 30 years. Why not? Shoot, Pat Riley couldn't finish it up. Van Gundy couldn't. And, Tibbs worked them too hard. I mean, they didn't have Phil Jackson was a program director. Mike Woodson to me was one of their best coaches, and they ran him out. The Antoni system, which was Jeremy Lin's sanity, that didn't work. They didn't try it a little bit of everything. They didn't try it strategically to be more structured. So why not? Sure, break the mold. Why not? People hate and just don't want to see a woman in the position. That's all that's about. I think that James Dolan needs everything that looks like he's progressive because he ain't the most progressive cat. So sure, why not? And it's not like people gonna break their necks to get that job. Really. Tibbs was there, but I'm not surprised he got fired though. They got winded and it caught up with him. And they lost the same team 2 years in a row in a different way. So hey, try something different. Why not? I ain't got no problem with it. That's because you think old timey. That's why. Shoot. Becky Hammonds was working with Popovich in San Antonio. What's the problem? Jenny Buss, the owner of the LA Lakers. What's the problem? I got an hour, so let's do it. And I told you next time you come through, I'll give you a full hour. So whatever you got, what's up? How you living? Feeling that, KJ? They ain't got nothing to lose. Pop ran them. I mean, Tibbs ran them off. What they got to lose? I don't know, but she should have gotten that job with the Spurs. She was all set and poised to do that. You know, if you got a team that is underachieving and don't win nothing, you don't have room to be gender war. Okay, you really don't. Now, owner and Jenny Buss, who's respected. You've had female owners in sports. Marge Schott owned the Cincinnati Reds and said all kinds of racist things, and she won a World Series. So I don't want to hear this about a woman can't lead this and can't do that. You already had a woman owner. She Georgia Fantine was an owner in the LA Rams. You've had women who've had ownership. You've had more women as owners in pro sports than you've had black owners. Now, now, no. But I will tell you something I was bumping. I didn't really feel like I have to be in a certain frame of mind. I will do that in the next day or two. I'll write that down now. I was bumping Living Color's Tiny Desk. I was bumping Stanley Clark's Tiny Desk performance. I was feeling that. And I was listening to some old David Peaston, if you remember him. that was the mood I was in. Along with listening to some of the whispers, because after when I about Walter passing, I had to get play that a lot. I was in that mood, so I really wasn't in that. After Walter passed with the whispers, so I listened to the whispers. I was listening to some Leroy Hudson, uh, Toto, because I want to hear some Georgie Porgy and Boss Skaggs and Steely Dan, and I was listening to some old Jackson 5 stuff. And who else was it that came through my airwaves? You always break my heart. Jimmy was with P Funk. I can't think of it right now. I was listening to that and Earth Wind and who else was it? It was something else that I couldn't. Went through a summer groove. Some Rick James, Sly and the Family Stone stuff. Yeah. So with these recently departed, it definitely hit a spot. But I will get to it though. Yep. And Olivia Lost and Turned Out, which is a Lost and Turned Out was a cut. They had some cuts. Yeah. Oh, the Leon Silvers era is I could listen to that all day. When Leon Silvers got that bass, that when he had those country chords going, bum, 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 bum. Oh man, that stuff was like, and Lady was like the first slow cut as a kid that I appreciated. Like, Teddy Pendergrass, I wasn't like trying all that. Luther songs were too long when I was a kid, but the Whispers, there was something about them hamburger mustaches that just stayed with me. And they're one of my favorite vocal groups ever. Top five male vocal groups ever. Love that stuff. All the Leon Silver's productions. Some of the Babyface and LA stuff, but mainly the Leon Silver's era is my era. I can make it better. I love them strings and the bass, the grooves. Love their harmonies. So they were some real brothers too. And that's a whole nother story. So yeah, but I did check the Tiny Desk, Living Color. Corey Glover still sound good. They were sounding good, and Stanley Clark. He hired some young cats playing. That was on point. So talk to Tiny Desk was on point. I was actually yesterday, strangely enough, Weather Report came on my thing. I was listening to some old Weather Report. So yeah, I liked him. I mean, I like it. I dig it more than I did at the time, but I liked it though. Well, Janice was an anthem, but Prerogative became the bigger song. Control was a bigger album, but Prerogative was like a bigger statement. I might have to do that as a. Do I do that as a question? You give me some inspiration for some future shows that I'm gonna do. So thank you. I'm gonna use this for like a later one. Control was a tight song, um, but Prerogative was like one of those anthems, though. I mean, you really understand how great Prerogative is when you hear Britney Spears' constipated version. That thing sucked. So you miss Prerogative. So anyway, that's one. So that's no. I don't know who that's a win for. Jalen Ramsey's toast at this stage. Smith is alright. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. When he was with Jacksonville, he was cool. He fell off though. I don't know about that move. I don't know about that. Angel Reese can play. Sure. All she had to do was score. She could rebound. She just had to score. She can play. That's the reason why people mess with her. I mean, besides the fact when she be, part time Instagramming it, she can play. It's just the team is kind of hit and miss. She just got to stick to her game. She's, her and Caitlin Clark gonna be. Just got to stick to what she do best. That's all. When she play her game, she fine. Don't get caught up in all the hoopla and all the, nonsense. That's all. That's what gets people in trouble. Play your game. Stick to what you do best. Let them turkeys choke their own selves out. Don't you give them no rope. Angel's gonna be all right. Because Caitlin Clark is hitting the brick. She's injured and she's hitting some bricks. So it'll even out. There's a lot of politics involved and people got a lot of, So anyway, Charlene, that's a good question, but it's really not that close. Because Control was a better record, but Prerogative is one of those songs that just held up. And to me, it held up better. And, you know, that's his trademark. She had a trademark with that too, but she's had the better career, but he had the better trademark song. Prerogative is one of those kind of songs you wish that every artist had one of those in their catalog, especially if they're dance based artists. Low down, not even close. And look, I like living it up. Bill and James could sing. Matter of fact, was it James was on American Idol or one of them shows? He came back and he did a solo thing. But come on, Boss Gas, come on, that thing was too funky. The Toto Cats had that song done like as kind of like sitting there, and he ran with it. It's supposed to be on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Too funky. Um, I think the premise is that more so with Shaq. That would have been interesting had he played with Duncan though, but he would have had to been a lot more disciplined than he was though, and he wasn't tuned in. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We'll never know. How I wish we had an alternate universe when Duncan and Shaq could have gone at each other when they in their peak in their primes. That would have been compelling. But Shaq was beating that butt up though in San Antonio for the most part. Duncan would get a few bit back, but Shaq was like on a mission, yo. But anyway, yeah, low down. I like living it up, but that's not really debatable. I still listen to low down almost 5 times a week. That bass alone, bang. And I do like living it up, but it's just not in the same. It's like a weight class. It's not in the same weight class as low down. That's unfair too, but sometimes stuff be like that though. And he should be on Verdict Watch. Well, if you get a verdict, let me know. I'll have to break away from here and do a live video. I think it's a winnable case though. What's happening? How you doing? What's up? Good to have you. I think it's a winnable case. I watched the lawyer that was on Willie D's show and a couple others, and if you really pay attention, it's more Frico than it's Rico. I mean, they could get technical on a couple things, but I don't think the fact is they kept pulling stuff off the table, wanted a plea deal to start the case, then took away some other. dropped other charges tells me that it's got holes in it. Because usually, if they got a 98.7 conviction rate, they're not gonna go and roll up. You gotta do 85% of the bid. They're not gonna help you. You know, so Angel Reese's been balling lately though. Caitlin Clark's been hurt, and her team is average. I don't think people are making an excuse for her. I think it's just unfair though. I like both songs, but I gotta go with Aretha. It just hits you with more soul. But yes, I'm ready is nice though. As a matter of fact, I got to hear Tony Desani and Casey from Casey and the Sunshine Band's version, which was nice. And I do like Yes I'm Ready, but Aretha, she put the hot butter on it. She put the oil on it. Oh, two mush bag songs, Charlene. Two mush bag songs. I am going to go with Joe Cocker because Peebo sounded like he was putting me to sleep, and it was like the kind of song that John Legend does, and people eat that thing up. It's just corny. I liked it at the time, and his voice was cool, but he went mush city. I'm going with Joe Cocker. If ever you're in my arms again, this time in love. It was all right, but he got better though. He's got better. I'm taking Joe Cocker on that one. Well, she had the right material. She was unstoppable when she had the right material. She did. She was no different than a lot of artists. Most artists that are successful are envious and always watching everybody because that's an industry that makes you do that. That's why the industry is like one big old plantation. You got to watch everybody, and like Marvin Gaye was insecure about stuff. I think that she thinks that if someone gets attention, she didn't like the fact that Beyonce was all hunky dory about Tina Turner. Aretha's very competitive. Was a competitive artist. That era was. Some people think it's. I don't think they underestimate. I just don't think that she because when you're doing gospel based music, you ain't gonna get but so many avenues. So I don't think anybody's underestimating. People in the know, but it's also the style of music she's doing. Underestimate is like saying we didn't see this coming. And see the Winans and had like 40-year career, so it's not like you didn't see it coming. I just think that because of the style of music she's done, and I wouldn't say underestimate. But by and large, most artists, excuse me, in that industry are pretty envious of one another. That's a business. And you put a lot of money for a lot of hype. I think a lot of people. They are aware of others. They aware of others. Just because you don't see it, don't mean they don't be checking out the competition. That's why Billboard and all that does that. Well, I'm gonna be outnumbered, but I'm going with Joe Cocker. I've heard better songs by Peebo. I thought that was pretty sleepy. She is a hater though. That was true. Force MDs. I liked End of the Road, even though it jacked the spinners. But Force MDs just hit me with that vocal and that groove. I was big on Force MDs. I think they underappreciated it. That's underappreciated because they were singing and rapping before it was really happening. And if they had anything of marketing or any money with them, they could have been half as big as Boys to Men. I do believe that because they had big hits. Shoot. No, I wouldn't say that. He's a second tier good singer. He's a second tier artist. He ain't no lounge singer. That's John Legend. That's a lounge singer. People can play and sing. It's just that he when he crossed over, he went Miami Vice. He had the S curve. He really changed his whole thing from the white suit and the fro, and his whole thing went all Disney, which was cool. It paid the bills. I love Surface. Surface was tight. Surface was tight because them boys could sing and play. They had some songs like The First Time Was My Cut, and they did the sappy thing, but it still had some feeling to it. Only You Can Make Me Happy was the cut. Mm-hmm. Yup. Only you can make me happy. That was one of them. After I get off work, Buppy jams. Still sounds good. They had catchy songs. And I start curious. Oh, well, depends on what SOS Spawn song we're talking about. If you're talking about Atlantic Star's Curiosity, SOS gonna tear that butt up. That's because he wants to go somewhere because he's all slurping. Jason Kidd, he's slurping. Because if the Lakers are building around Luca, they don't need his old crusty behind. That's what's up. And they can't do nothing with him. I don't want him back in Miami. You can have him. Yep. Close and Friends was cold. Was cold. I like that. I like that. That Surfers had some cuts, and they used to write songs for others. They work with Reby Jackson. They could write. He only one because he's desperate for attention. He can't make no more whack movies no more. Like he can't make House Party 85 and White Man Can't Jump 68. Come on now, Turkey need to go retire. Like when you listen to the Whisper Soul Train song, I mean, it's no comparison. It ain't. When I was looking at that top 10 greatest R&B artists, right? Only R. Kelly was the one that was picked from the male side in the last 35 years. There's a reason. Ain't been a lot of great, just saying. No, I don't want either one of them. I want somebody that no one. I think Eric Spoelstra should get the job or somebody completely different. I don't want either one of them. Because Majuri, the problem that he runs into, he made a great bold trade at a time when Toronto had went through people and couldn't keep people, and you know, uh, got rid of the Rose and the thing landed. I wouldn't want to do that though. Oh yeah, well Donny Hathaway was one of the greatest soul singers ever, and he was a peer, very talented man. Girl, tonight I'm taking Joanna because of the horn arrangement, and I like uh, "You're the one for me." La, la, la. JT's vocals were better than Melvin Riley's. I'm taking JT, and I did like Joanna. Tonight was a cool synth pop song. It was cool synth pop. It was a cool synth groove. It was catchy, but I'll take Joanna. Yep. Lost and Turned Out was a cold song. You don't hear that no more. That's some 70s lingo for you. Lost and Turned Out is Pimp Talk 101. And I think that's another reason why so many cats loved Whispers because they had that street flavor. They really did. They had that vibe about them where you could relate to them and they were polished, but they were brothers. Some cats can't mix both worlds the same and they get all kind of uppity and buppity, but they still had that flavor. That's what I liked about them. Mm. Bobby DeBarge, and Tommy DeBarge, bass player, and Bobby was the lead singer. Yeah, they had great songs, and El DeBarge was doing background vocals on "I Call Your Name," I believe, but Bobby was the leader of the band. Gregory Williams is somebody. If you check him out on Facebook, if you can catch Greg Williams, he does great commentary. He was a member of Switch. He owns the name. A lot of great stories and lessons to take in there. Switch was good. Switch was good. They hit with the slow cuts. The up tempo ones was hit and miss, but they hit with the slow jams. But Elder Bard still performs those songs live. That's some good. That's some good representation there. But yeah, Lost and Turned Out. That was a cut. That sounds so 70s too. Lost and Turned. You never gonna hear nobody say that today. Let's straighten it out. Lattimore. Oh yeah, that's like Tyrone Davis and Johnny Taylor type. That's that Geechee dominoes playing cards. You don't know about that type of soul. That's some good bucket. I mean, I seen a picture of him. He had the very white perm. I cracked up. But yeah, country brother all the way. Yeah. That's kind of like when I think about DJ Rogers. He did say you love me. That when you hear that kind of soul, yeah, yeah. When you getting into the gut, you getting into the gut bucket stuff now. When you get in the gut bucket, you talking about that deep in the bushes where you got the iced tea and the lemons heavy on the ice and stir in the backyard late night, and somebody might throw some henny in there. I love Very Special. It's a funny thing because Charlene was asking me about Deborah Laws earlier and Stacey Lattisaw, but you got to go. I Call Your Name. That's more iconic. I Call Your Name is like more iconic, but don't get it twisted though. Deborah Laws was bad in their time. That's a great question. That is, I'm gonna use that for a future one. Bigger in their time is going to be Run DMC. Tupac got bigger in when he transitioned, but if they both at the same time, it was DMC because the switch, Charlene, switch, because DMC had the shoes, the clothes, the drip. They were like the Jackson Five and the Beatles combined, and they hit like that too. So, oh yeah, yep, OJ's, Harold Melvin, yep, yep, yep. GQ were bad. They did all them songs that Billy Stewart did. They did a lot of cover songs. And New Birth, Wildflower, very distinctive. Oh yeah, it was Run DMC all the way. DMC had the jewelry, they had the movies, they were big. They had the doing the shoes. They were doing the shoes arguably before Michael Jordan. If you want to understand how big they were in the culture, because my Adidas, they were big on the streets. Imagine if Spike Lee had gotten down with them. I mean, they had did some stuff. They brought Aerosmith back. They were doing what Michael Jackson did with Eddie Van Halen, and then they teamed up with Aerosmith when Aerosmith couldn't even get arrested for jaywalking in front of the police station. Got them back. So, well, no, I'm only going by no. Yeah, the question was Run DMC or Tupac, not about LL. I know how big LL was. He got bigger, but he wasn't as big as DMC. No, he was big, but he wasn't big as DMC. Not until my Tom Bad came out. I'm bad, and then he almost threw it all away when walking with the Panther in '89 because he had major backlash. So he had a roller coaster ride early. But DMC couldn't do no wrong from '83 to about '88. They were the first ones to have all like that. Oh, you talking about Frederick? Not the switch version. I call your name. You talking about Frederick? I don't want to be out without you, girl. So don't you ever stop being in my work. You talking about Frederick? Okay. Yeah, but no, they were on another. Them two plus Heavy D had a slow jam too. But I Need Love was the bigger. Slick Rick was more because of the storytelling. Storytelling with the Slick Rick. But Need Love was big because of the slow jam. And Heavy D and the boys had a slow cut too. Oh yeah, you talking about Frederick. That came out 40 years ago. That song was so happy my mama liked it. Used to play that all the time. And it didn't sound like you knew he was a one hit, two hit wonder, but it sounded so good. Second tiers. I liked his voice, but his material was alright. He had some stuff I like. He had some stuff I like. Glenn Jones was kind of like the Joe of his generation. One of those cats that you knew he was there. He didn't always get his due, and because there was somebody that was kind of like bigger than him for different reasons. There's always a cat like that. Anita Ward, Anita Ward. Yeah, Anita Ward used to live where I lived in Hampton, Virginia. Yeah, those guys were actually songwriters, and then they both tragically got unalived, sadly. But those cats were bad, though. They were bad, and I found in my head. Yeah, that Frederick song used to. So depends on where you grew up, and you can understand this, KJ. We had AM radio, and that was like a huge song on R&B AM radio. That one and Deborah Laws were they owned AM radio. Time you hit the AM dial. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Bloodstone, we go a long way back was my jam. That was on T Neck Records. They did that with the Ozzy Brothers label back in '83. They was bad. They was playing. Yep. Ray Goodman and Brown was the moments before that. Jack in the Box was one of the jams. Those boys could sing. That sounded like a law firm. Them Afro wearing brothers, that thick mustaches. There was something about that. You have a tight fro and a thick stash, and you were soulful. Yeah, you bringing up all that back. You now y'all going into the like I say, y'all going into that side section with the cats that don't get talked about, but you know that section. If your pops or your uncle or your older cousin or somebody in your grandpap, if somebody played that stuff, you remembered it because it was big in the round the way and it was big for what y'all were doing. It wasn't mainstreamed per se, but it was a hit, but it didn't get overblown. But you remembered it. It had that alleyway vibe. It had that thing where you said, "Oh, you playing that? You know a little something, something, something." When you mention these acts, those are those kind of acts. You know, and we talk about you talk about Frankie Beverly and Mays not getting no love and some others. Oh, LTD gonna win that one. Come on now, Michael Jackson. I like the Eugene Wilder cut. Eugene Wilder had a couple tracks, but that's not a fair comparison. You got to put him with somebody that's. I liked it, but oh yeah, because back in the day, them songs was like hotcakes. They were stacked. Your mama be slapping your hands until the syrup was on the top with the butter and drip. You gotta wait till you get the full stack. That's how it was. Cats used to do that back in the day too. Used to buy 45s because they would check the charts and they had all the hits, and them songs was something else. Now, that's not a good one because Lakeside, I like Raid, but it's not touching back in love. LTD got the dub on that one. And Michael's got it for the lady in my life. I mean, that's not fair. But Eugene Wild was nice though. Eugene Wild was kind of like Jay Holiday in that he kind of came out of left field and had a couple big hits what people couldn't ignore for a moment. There was always somebody like that though. Yeah, it's one of those cold songs. I used to listen to his music a whole lot. Still do. Yeah, we on fire today. Everybody's coming on with us. A great stream today. Glad I came on today. Turning Point. Average Weight Band was bad. The horn charts was bad. Their vocals had some slow cuts. They one of my 15 to 20 greatest R&B bands. Turning Point for Du Bros when they got him. Best number one picks. You're gonna start Magic, you're gonna bench Shaq, and you're gonna cut Kareem. Because Shaq was a rookie of the year. And by his 30, he was considered one of the 50 greatest players ever. And he lived more than lived into it. And he led his team to the finals. R. Kelly. Hanging downtown in the blowout. R. Kelly in the blowout. I like Let Me Love You Down. And even but R. Kelly was not going to get beat in the 90s. I'm going to tell you like that. And your body's calling still sounds good. Think what you want. He ain't going to lose that. I didn't really care for Old Baby. It sounded like a warm up version of Do Me Baby, and I think Andre Simone may had a hand in it. It was under. It just didn't really go nowhere. Girl was better, if you want my own opinion, but Girl was lacking because of the vocals. Because Morris Day and Prince were both straining in that vocals. But Hanging Downtown is one of the coldest slow jams ever. I'll be hanging downtown. Ooh, and that horn part, it ain't close. It ain't close. I'm gonna say it because he was great, but Shaq coming out was something else. And that version of Shaq got to the finals was, and he more than lived up to the hype. Melissa Morgan was bad for that, and she did a good take on Princess Do Me Baby. She made it sound real gospel. She had a nice tone, you know. Obviously, she and Regina King and some not Regina King, Regina Bell and them were basically, and Mickey Howard would be kind of like seen as Junior Whopper Whitney's, but they could sing. You know, she had a couple cuts I like. She could see. She had a couple cuts I like. Well, if you ask me to start bench cut, I got to go in on it. It ain't easy because I think a lot of Kareem, and he might be the greatest player ever. But if you're asking me number one picks and on that, because you know what Magic did his rookie year, Magic came out. You know, Magic. I wish Magic Johnson was realer than what he leads on when he be talking. Because unlike LeBron, he didn't come out saying not one, not two, not three or four. He really did do all that. Regina Bell was nice. Her brother Bernard Bell co-wrote "Remember the Time" with Teddy Riley and Michael Jackson. Oh yeah, and of course I like that "All I Want Forever," the one she did with J.T. Taylor for Coon the Game for the Sammy Davis Jr. movie. I am going with "Float On," and I love the Four Tops, but I got to give it to "Float On." That song is still hypnotic. My name is Lester, and I'm Aquarius. They just hit that song. I just still like that. Float, float on. Yeah, yeah, she's still good. Wild though, crazy though. That whole thing with her and Ron Oz is just crazy. Only thing is that in hindsight, I would say she was like a Junior Whopper Shaka Khan vocally. That's not a knock, and she could play, and she had some stuff that I like. But no, there's only one song you clean your house to. There's a couple of them, but obviously it's "My House" by Donna Ross. That was the cleaning your house joint, especially the long version. And I can't let go by Earth Wind. Can't let go of Earth Wind and Fire. That got good clean potential. So there's some Saturday cleaning. But I did like optimistic though. They were good. They were good. Yeah, that's well. Yeah, she when she rearranged the groove from Rogers and Edwards, it still bumps. But it's my house is probably like the cleanup jam. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, when she was my girl, that was a catchy song. Um, Levi Stubbs is one of the baddest vocalists I ever heard. When she was my girl, I'm taking just to be close to you. And I did like Wildflower a lot, but it's hard to argue against when the Richie's pen game was on point. That's still a standard. He sounded like a preacher too. When I saw Which Way Is Up with Richard Pryor playing Reverend Washington, I thought about, oh girl, I've been through so many changes, girl, in my life. Lionel Richie and Richard Pryor made me eyes having a flashback. Especially when he goes, oh girl, material things I thought had so much value. Didn't have much value. He went into that cadence and that rap. I said, oh yeah, you got some country preacher in you, country pimp. But I do like that new birth. The Wildflower was a tight cut though. It's just that they're going against a Hall of Fame song. And the Commodores dropped those kind of cuts. Yeah, well, no, I'm just using what Lionel did. There's two different owls. But I'm just talking about him just to be close to you when you hear the long when he does the cadence at the beginning. Sly Stones started it. Sugarfoot made it into something cool though. And Maurice White gave it a feeling. They all cats was doing their own owl. So yeah. All depends on which one. But they all did it though. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that though. A lot of them did it. They got that off a slide on. So we got okay. Mm, all right, we're gonna see what we got. People kind of slowed down a little bit. Appreciate everybody coming through. I'll definitely come back tomorrow. Be on a little bit earlier tomorrow though, cause I got to go out tomorrow. So I'll be on a little bit. Spandau Ballet. Nothing like the original. PM Dawn used that um, same loop and groove that Eric B. Rakim used, but nah, I'm taking Spandau Ballet. Like the guitar part, like the vocals. Still, Firecracker was done by Mass Production. They from Richmond, Virginia. Brass Construction never did Firecracker. But either way, I'm taking Confunction. Because Shake and Dance to me, I like the vocals, I like the groove, I like the harmony. I like the way Michael Cooper. Wah, wah. Mm, mm, mm. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 I like that old Confunction groove. So, Firecracker sounds. I like it. You can bop to it, but it's kind of gimmicky. I'm taking Rakim. And I like MC Shaw, but it's hard for me to ever pick anybody over Rakim. You got to be like KRS One level for me to take that. Because Rakim's skill set, yeah, skill set that still ain't really been faded. Yeah, Randy Mueller did do some remakes with them. I have brass construction songs that I like a lot, but I don't hold the brass construction is like in my second tier, maybe high third tier, because I like Can You See the Light and moving and stuff that they like. I like their, but I wasn't like big on them in terms of like they couldn't hold my interest like other better bands. But when they hit, they hit. So I'll be on for a couple more minutes. Come back tomorrow. So anyway, I think that's about it for now. Be back tomorrow. I appreciate it when they came through. Some great conversations. We definitely had some great conversations today. And I think, yeah, stand by. We'll wait and see how everything goes on. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and check on out. Please hit like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments. Stay safe, stay blessed. Everybody wants to donate, feel free. And look forward to seeing you in 24 hours. Appreciate everybody that came through. Some great questions, great conversation as always. Peace and the best to you. Stay up, stay safe, stay well hydrated too. Drink your water.